song?
What a fucking depressing note to start the show on.
R.I.P.
No, literally.
R.I.P.
I mean, you said you were playing horror music. I feel like
Horror music?
you said
Oh, horror.
Scary.
horror.
Okay. Horror. Okay. And we are live on both channels, so if you guys want to share it, you can do that, certainly. Otherwise, the show is yours.
Alrighty. When the music dies out, we'll get it popping.
Thanks, Moonlight Sonata. Hi.
Hi. Welcome to Therapy Rebranded, where we're consistently inconsistent.
Ding. Cheers.
Cheers.
We're back.
We're back, and we came back, both of us came back 29 instead of 28.
We both had birthdays. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. I didn't know that.
Happy birthday.
Our birthday's 3 days apart. Same year.
Both Scorpios.
Fucking weirdos.
Weirdos.
Sex and death.
How come we're supposedly both the same sign, but we're nothing alike?
Nobody thinks I'm a Scorpio.
How's the mathing with that?
It's almost like that stuff is bullshit.
No.
It's almost like
Make
it makes
math.
no sense. It's almost like they don't mean shit about your personality.
Somebody would say that we have different risings or something. That's how they would explain that. When you think back, this is your last year of your 20s.
Don't tell me that.
We feel differently about it. I can't wait to be 30.
I can't. I'm excited for 30.
Lies.
No, I'm excited for my 30s, but this isn't how I saw my 20s ending. I don't mind getting older. I like.
Did you think you were going to be pregnant and barefoot?
Kinda.
Really?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I'm like fine with it now. It's just not how I saw it.
Okay.
Yeah. Give me one sentence to describe your 20s.
Lots of crying and traveling.
Happening at the same time.
At the same time, in conjunction.
In conjunction.
Yes.
Sometimes over the same things.
Yes.
One sentence to describe my 20s. Depression is pervasive.
You were not depressed most of your 20s.
Oh, I was.
I guess you were depressed on the front end and the back end.
The middle was like touch and go, but it's because I was out of my body.
Yay.
And here we are. What are you hoping for in your 30s?
I'm hoping for everybody around me to catch up. Just want everybody else to be like a little more grounded in who they are. I'm like kind of tired of it.
Yeah.
If I'm like ready to age into my personality. Like I'm ready for like people to not be like, oh my God, you want to go home by midnight? I want like everybody else to be ready to go home by midnight.
To go home by midnight.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm ready for that. Yes, definitely.
I feel like every year I've gotten older, I feel a little bit better in my body and I feel a little bit more financially stable. And I just hope that just trajectory just continues just up.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Well.
having money really makes a difference. Having a job with flexibility really makes a difference. Like if I could say the difference between my day-to-day now versus a couple years ago, it was like being treated with some respect at work and like making enough money at the beginning of the month that you know you're going to be able to pay all your bills.
Yeah.
Like those are like such wins.
Mm-hmm. And it helps your mental health.
A lot. And it wasn't like I was like so poor. It was just kind of like, I'm going to let this go this month and I'll catch up on it next month. And then you end up paying more for things when you have to pay them late because you have to pay fees and shit. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of times I was living with someone in my 20s. It didn't go right. And I was like, get the fuck out. And then I was really struggling financially. Boyfriends and friends, et cetera, et cetera.
But you chose yourself every time?
Got to. Rather be poor.
Okay. Check in. How are you?
Wait, what are you looking forward to in your 30s?
Oh,
since
fuck, I
you're
forgot.
lying and saying you're happy about it.
I am happy about my 30s, but I do think there's something about getting older and like it not being what you thought it was, like what you thought getting older would be, but I don't mind it.
Why don't flip-flop, reframe, plot twist?
Tell me. Give it to me.
Your mom was barefoot and pregnant and wasn't ready at 29. Like, what if everyone we were looking at wasn't any farther than we were? They just had a baby.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like...
My mom was 35 when she had me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and 38 when she had my brother.
Oh, then you're on track.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, literally, like, you can't break family cycles. Like, I'm just convinced. It's not possible. No, I'm joking.
I got to break in there, though. You're dead on about the whole having kids. It is, like, truly, when I had kids, I know that I'm perceived now as more of an adult.
Yeah.
And it makes you behave like more of an adult unless you're a psycho. you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, and by the way, 38th was my hardest birthday too.
38?
30th, or 30
30th.
was the hardest age for me. And I like getting older. Like, I'm an old guy anyway, or like I was always like that anyway.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a mile marker of failure for me.
Really?
Or it was like, well, how about this? The Beatles had written their entire song catalog by the time they're 30, but you're doing good too.
But how were their 40s?
Right.
It's still fucking triumphant and massive, but whatever. I
were
don't
also
know.
Individually? No.
No.
No, they weren't. How old?
I disagree.
How old was John Lennon when he got murdered?
Okay, well, you gonna hold that over him that he got murdered?
Yes.
No, I'm
All
just
right,
saying
he got
that-
murked.
No,
This
no,
is
no,
bad.
no. There's nothing wrong with my brother's literally named after George Harrison. Big Beatles fans.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing wrong with them. I'm just saying that like a lot of people who hit really young for whatever reason, they did a lot in a short amount of time, which is super awesome. But also,
It's also not realistic. Like most people aren't doing like it. I think there's a sense that people do a lot in their 20s in this day and age, and it's actually just not how it
They
goes.
don't, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's actually how it goes. There's just like a perception that you're supposed to get everything done in your 20s. And
What's
nobody does-
everything?
I think maybe it's just kind of like an online culture thing. Like you're supposed to get the job and the marriage and the baby so you can enjoy the rest of your life. But it doesn't. Nobody's life. Most people's lives don't. Not nobody's, but most people's don't pan out like that. You can get everything done in your fucking 20s.
If you want to get pregnant and have a baby in your 20s, you can absolutely have a baby in your 20s. Nothing is stopping anybody from finding somebody else who has low goals in life and just shooting up the club.
No, you can have a baby in your 20s, but it's about like, should you? Is it the best time? Is it like everybody wants to do everything in their 20s because you're like young and like, I don't know why. I don't know why we want to get everything done in our 20s. I think there's this perception that you should. Or
Is
else
it
you're
pressure
wasting your
from
life.
social media?
I feel like it is.
I feel like it's generationally, if you wanted to mimic your parents, I think
Yeah.
most of us would feel behind.
Yeah, I agree.
My mom had a 10-year-old. I definitely don't want to have it at this age. Definitely don't want that.
No.
But I don't know. Anyways, how are you?
I feel overwhelmed today. I feel overwhelmed, but I feel overwhelmed and a little anxious but like present. I don't know. Those are the three words I feel. How about you?
I'm feeling. I don't know. I feel kind of I felt anxious earlier today, and then I was feeling kind of just like disappointed before coming here. I'm not sure why. I think like I went to therapy yesterday and we just reflected on the state of life and basically just like all the ways in which like people are like dynamic humans and you kind of have to like accept that to be in relationship with people. And I was just went to work and like I'm really struggling right now with sharing my office. I know that's really childish, but
It's not.
I'm really struggling with sharing
I'm so
my
sorry.
office.
It's not childish.
I didn't know that I was going to have to share my office, and it makes being at work really suck. So I've just been like eating that, I think, and
And to be fair to you, it happened in a weird ass way.
yeah, basically like they hired somebody for another site and they closed the site and they're like, they're coming here and they're sharing your job in your office. And I was like, dope. And then they started like 4 days later. And
Nobody wants to share offices at our big ages, bro.
well, the office is tiny. It's a 1-person office. So like one of us has to sit in the client chair when we're both there.
How do you get along?
It's a gauntlet. They want you to fight it out.
I don't really know her. We're the same age and we have totally different backgrounds and perspectives on life. And I think we practice therapy really differently. And
White woman. Excuse me.
almost. And not quite.
Close but no cigar.
Close but no cigar. And so I think she gives me like doesn't want to say the wrong thing, which is very anti to who I am. Mm-hmm. I'm just like, hi, I'm out here. So we just kind of coexist, and I think I'm coming across as pretty cunty actually because I'm not a big fan of small talk. Like I love to talk, I don't love small talk, and I feel like I can do therapist like small talk, which is like tell me how your clients went, but she doesn't. They don't. I don't know. We're just not there yet. So also like the census is really low because someone tested positive for COVID on the unit, like one of the kiddos. So we can't like bring anyone else on the unit. So it just was like a really not very hard, not very busy work week that I really got to like sit in the things I didn't like about work when I was at work because I wasn't busy. You know, when you're busy, you're like darting through.
You're just in work.
You're just like consumed. Like I couldn't care what was happening. I don't care if I'm eating. Like I don't care. But then when you have time, you're like,
How do you feel about your job? Maybe I just shouldn't ask that on air.
I think I have a good job, and there's a lot of changes happening system-wide at work right now where they're trying to create more collaboration between teams. Like they want the therapists to be more collaborative with other people who are non-clinical and kind of pulling this like everybody's equally important. And I'm really struggling because like I don't want to go and play at the playground. I want to eat my lunch inside by myself. Like we're not at the
Why
same...
are they asking people to collaborate more? Just because?
Because they did a survey on the unit and found out a bunch of people were dissatisfied, and so I think they thought like they were gonna change the culture on the unit by making us like play together more, but we don't play well. So like forcing us to play together more is not what we need. We need like
It's a brawl. It's a playground.
stronger boundaries. We need stronger boundaries and more space. We're fighting over not having enough resources and space, and us spending more time together is not going to change that. They need to give us more space.
Right, not more togetherness.
Yeah,
People need more time apart.
I'm good. I'm fine, but I'm just...
If you could name one thing you need this week, what would you need?
I don't think I need anything. I think I'm good. I could have got a bigger check today. That would have made my day.
Period. Could have got a fatter check.
I could have got a fatter check today.
That would have made my day. I didn't even get paid today. That would have made my day if I even got paid today.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to do this responsible thing where I take money out of my check before I get it, and I put it into a savings account that I don't have any cards connected to and doesn't have like a home bank here. So I literally have to wait 3 days to pull money out of it. So you can't like do any last minute whatever.
Right.
But I got my check today and I was like, I'm really mad about that money that went in there. I don't know. I don't know why
you're like seething over it.
Speaking of money, I know we're late on this, but we really want to talk about this list of bad first dates that was going around.
We couldn't let it go.
We couldn't let it go.
We couldn't let it go.
It's so controversial.
And everybody has an opinion about it.
Everyone has an opinion.
So have you talked about it with your partner?
No.
No?
No.
I would be interested to hear. Okay, so you explain it.
No, you explain it.
Okay, so I think most people, is it a Black Twitter thing? Was this a Black Instagram Twitter thing?
I don't know.
I feel like last week, maybe 2 weeks ago now.
Black Twitter's the culture, so I can't tell.
Maybe not, yeah. I think this was more Instagram maybe. But there's been a list of bad first date ideas going around. And it's been controversial, I think, because people are kind of actually rallying around that these aren't terrible date ideas. They're just like date ideas that don't cost a lot of money. And so the people are saying, I would never go on these dates.
Some of them are pretty awful.
A couple of them I wouldn't do as first dates.
Some of them I would never do.
You would never go to Applebee's for like $1 margaritas with your man?
No.
I would.
No.
No?
No.
They're good margs.
They're not. They're hangover margs. You feel like shit the next day. Those are for 22-year-olds.
That's facts.
They can drink whatever they want, and they don't feel like crap the next day.
Okay, so I think Cheesecake Factory is a terrible
Gabe,
first.
I sent you the list. Will you pull it up?
You want the whole list? I was going to bring them out one by one if you needed. I wasn't sure what you wanted to do.
Okay, yeah. Bring them out one by one. Go back.
That's what we got. Sorry.
Okay.
Whoops.
All right, first one's Cheesecake Factory.
Rapid fire, would you go? First date?
Yes.
No.
That's going to be a $100 date. Let's talk about money. Talking about money, just saying, like, that's not even about cheapness, so why would you not go?
Because for me, it's not about, I don't want to go to a chain on the first date. I want to go somewhere else. Like, I'd rather go get coffee on the first date, or I'd rather go take a walk on the first date, or I'd rather go to, like, a pub on the first date than go to Cheesecake Factory.
Oh, so you're a hipster.
I just don't want to go to a chain restaurant on the first date. I don't know why.
But it's literally,
and it
there's only one in Minnesota. I know it's a chain, but there's only one here.
There's two.
Where's the other one?
There's one Southdale and there's one near, what's it called? The outlet malls, isn't there? In like BC?
I think you're capping.
Maybe I'm capping.
Are you really saying, though, that you don't think Cheesecake Factory sucks?
Me?
Yeah.
It doesn't suck. It doesn't suck.
You don't think it sucks?
No, I don't think it sucks.
But
I just don't want to
sucks.
go on a first date.
I like the cheesecake. The cheesecake's good.
Well, I do
Cheesecake is
too.
fire. The food isn't actually bad. The bread is great. The menu is just extensive.
There's these deep
a
fried
catalog.
There's this deep fried mac and cheese that's really good. First of all, I would go on the first date and then I would probably make jokes. I'd be very playful about us being at Cheesecake Factory, but I would definitely go on the first date. And I'm different though because if I didn't like where we were going, I would suggest something else.
I would suggest somewhere else. I'd be like, how about here instead?
Because that would gauge the price range for me to be like, that's kind of far. Could we go near blah blah blah? Like I would just redirect. All right, next one. Applebee's is a no for me.
Applebee's is a no for me.
Chili's.
Applebee's is a no? Okay.
No.
Sorry. Here, let me just do the other one then. I'll just
Okay.
do your list
Okay.
so we can go faster.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. So this, and by the way, what does it tell you? What would you think about the guy for bringing you to Cheesecake Factory or whatever, like any of these places?
I just think he doesn't have great taste in restaurants.
Right.
That.
Which is damning.
Is it damning?
It's not damning. It's just for me.
Does taste matter?
Not if you're open to trying new things.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
But I'd say this is empirically not new things. This is fucking, that's why he's taking you to Chili's or Applebee's.
No. But to me, like, okay, so we can just get rid of Chili's, Applebee's, Chipotle, Olive Garden, all a hell no.
No, the movies are not a good first date. The movies are a good
Yeah,
date.
you don't talk.
They're not a good first date.
You have to do drinks before or after if you're
house.
bringing me to
Yes.
the movie.
Or dinner. Your house,
Absolutely not on a first date.
not
for
on a
me.
first date.
Rachel
That's-
would, but
yeah.
I wouldn't.
I would not on a first date.
Rachel's
If I
last
wanted to
first
fuck-
date she went on to, she's lying, guys.
She's
She went to
called you a hoe.
Applebee's for margaritas, then she went to Cheesecake Factory for dinner, and then she brought him home.
The
Don't lie.
the last first date I went on, we went to a really nice restaurant. We went to Le Petit Lion, which was great, and then we took a walk, and then we did go back to my place, but we didn't do anything.
You know what's really interesting is that Petit Lion probably costs the same as cheesecake. When you add it,
It probably does.
it probably does.
It
Why
probably
It's
did
does.
you go to
actually
your
not really
house?
nice. It's foodie.
It is foodie.
Yeah.
It's not. No, it's
It
not.
has
really nice.
overpriced drinks, and the drinks are tasty.
It's
but
actually
foodie.
not. It's actually don't love the food there. I actually prefer the drinks there. The food.
I
there-
told you.
Yeah. Well, I'd been
They
there.
have a good burger though.
I'd been there before with my family, but I didn't love it.
Anyways, my house is an absolute no.
So, yeah, I'm sorry to break in again.
Yeah.
But just truly to ask, why would you bring him to your house if you're not going to do anything?
I mean, we made out a little bit.
Okay.
It was cold that night. We were supposed to just go for a walk. And I was like, honestly, I don't really want to go for a walk right now. It's dark as fuck outside. That's weird. Like, I'd rather just go sit and chat in my apartment and then you can go home.
Oh, my God. I would think, like,
Also, to clarify, something tells me if he would have wanted to, you would have.
Yeah.
It was an open invitation.
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's be
that makes
clear.
sense.
Yeah.
It was an
Okay.
invitation.
Yeah.
It
thank
wouldn't
you
have been
for
a rejection.
restoring
Yeah.
order.
Yes,
Okay.
it wouldn't have been a rejection.
Oh, no, there's nothing wrong. I don't have a thing against having sex on the first date or
Yeah.
like invite. Like, it's not that. We just didn't.
Fast food is a no, but I also
That's absurd.
don't really love fast food.
Fast food is a no on a first date.
Yeah.
B-Dubs is a no. Wingstop is a no. Is Red Lobster a no?
Yes. But it's a great place. I just don't want to go on the first date. I would go on the second date. I would go.
I'm calling BS.
Actually, you know what? I take it back. So, because I actually said this before. I forgot I said this. This was to somebody else. I could go to any of these places on a first date if we did other things and we were like, yo, this sounds great. Let's go here.
If you helped pick it.
Yeah. Like if I was like, yo, you know what sounds fire right now is fucking Cheesecake Factory. Let's go. Like that would be fun. But we would have to like, I don't know, we'd gone bowling first or we had like gone and done like laser tag, I don't know, something fun first. And like,
So it'd have
wanted
to
go
be
here.
something spontaneous that you like plan. You were like, let's do this.
Yeah. Like, yo, this,
Okay.
like, you know what I'm craving right now is fucking Applebee's. Like that would be cute and fun. I would do that.
All right. What about the gym?
I don't want to go on any date to the gym.
A buffet?
What
No.
buffet?
What buffet?
Like the one on Lake Street that does like the really good Chinese food or
No.
how about IHOP?
So wait,
Are we skipping these? Or are we okay?
we're going to, oh yeah, keep going. Red Lobster is a no. A buffet is a no.
I think Red Lobster is like an unsophisticated person's idea of a sophisticated place.
But that's what the first couple ones are.
No.
Yeah, that's what a lot of these are.
Nobody thinks that Red Lobster is sophisticated.
Yes,
I
they
do
do.
think they do.
Yes, they do. Yo,
It's
I
not
didn't grow up
church.
No, pause. I didn't grow up with a lot and we would go to Red Lobster for events. Just saying. I know you used
that's
to
true.
ride horses for your
That's
events,
true.
but
That's
we
true.
would
That's
go to
true.
Red Lobster
That's
when
true.
I was young.
That's true.
On my dad's side.
That's
Black
class,
folks
for sure.
love
Oh,
Red
they
Lobster.
do.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, exactly.
And then how do you pronounce it?
What?
What?
Church.
Church?
Oh man, all my black friends. I would give them shit. They say like
Church.
lobster. No. They
Red
say
lobster.
they say red lobster in a funny way all the
Red
time.
lobster?
That I was giving shit about. Yeah.
Are you saying we should be speaking in Ebonics? What are you
No.
doing?
I just wanted to hear
Last
it.
time it was pro-Trump. Now it's this.
Right.
No, I'm just kidding.
I love
white girl.
Donald Trump. Yeah,
Church is an absolute no for me. but I'm also-
Absolute no.
I'm not religious.
that's someone trying to prove
For
something.
me, that's a no on any date.
Yeah.
That's not a date to me.
Starbucks, I
Yes.
would do a meet and greet.
I would do Starbucks.
I think if you try to bring me at Starbucks at 7 p.m., I'd be weirded out. But
Yeah.
like that's drink
no, that's
time.
like a cute like a breakfast date or like a hey, let's meet up for coffee. I would
yeah,
do
or
Starbucks.
like a even like 3 or 4. I
Yeah.
also am like a little tiny bit of me is like, are you sober?
Yes.
A little tiny bit of me is like, if you're bringing this coffee date, are you going to tell me you're sober?
Yes. Would you rather do a coffee date or just a drinks date?
Drinks,
Me too.
Drinks every time.
Yeah.
drinks every
That's the
time.
worst part.
How about ice cream dates?
Yes. So so the things with drink. Okay, so what they tell you, what people say, which I don't know if you guys agree with it or not, but what people say is like, if you are looking for a serious relationship and you really want to find somebody you're actually compatible with, you should not drink alcohol in the first
Yeah.
couple dates
I've heard
because
that.
it like creates a false feeling of connection and chemistry.
Yeah.
For me personally, whoever I'm dating, I'd probably be drinking with them, so I don't really care.
We're going to be inebriated anyway sometimes.
But I don't know. There's like people say that.
I get that. I'm just like, you also get to see what people are like when they're drinking then. Like we can be sober another time. Like, but we're out to dinner, I'm going to have a drink. Like,
I remember
I'm
when my
sorry.
mom, she went on a lunch date with somebody that she was like, had been messaging with. Now she's in a relationship, but before that she went on like a lunch date and they were both going back to work after this. So they had like snuck out for an hour from work and he had like 3 cocktails and a beer. And she was like,
She judged it?
Yes. Would you judge?
Interesting.
Would you judge?
they're both going back to work.
I mean, I would judge.
yes.
What if he owns his own like studio business?
They met for an hour.
Oh, okay.
You can
Oh,
get
in an
wasted
hour?
after,
That's a
yeah.
lot. That's
yeah,
fast.
that's why I said they had lunch for an hour.
Never mind. Okay. I get it.
And you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
that's 1 or 2 drinks max. You get
That's
through an
pounding
hour.
him down. That's
Yeah.
pounding him down.
You're like, that's like, I gotta get wasted before I go back to work. Either that or the drinks or the date sucked for him.
Or he really wasn't going back to work.
Oh, maybe he wasn't.
That's wild.
He thought he was getting laid.
Maybe. At lunch?
How about a family function?
I don't know.
A family function is weird.
It's weird.
It's weird in every way, shape, or form.
Is it a red flag?
Yes.
I think so too.
It's a glaring flag.
Yes, I think so.
Family function. Right.
How about movie night? Only if I'm
That's
trying to-
hook up and chill, right?
Yes, yeah, it is. It's blatantly hook up and chill.
Somewhere that requires a long drive is hilarious.
No, I'm not doing that on a first date.
That's fucking hilarious.
Unless like I like knew you and we were like, hey, like let's decide to date, let's do this, and I try. But I'm not going anywhere with like somebody like long.
And then we can just power through because
Bowling rules. I think bowling's good.
bowling's a good one. Any kind of activity is great. Like especially an activity
Yeah.
where you can drink.
Yeah, same.
You can drink, and you guys, if you really were having a good time, you guys could order food, or you could go somewhere after and have food.
Nightclub.
How about this? I have a real one that I got invited on, and I didn't like it, but it was to walk her dog.
Without her?
No,
You guys are going on a walk together.
she wanted to meet for a walk. I mean, I didn't go. I actually
It's not the worst.
Rachel said she would go on a walk. She
I
just
would go on a
said
walk.
It's not the worst. Is there something about walking her dog? It was just kind of like, I don't know, put me in her I don't know why. It just didn't rub me the right way.
I feel like for women, it's like a safe. It's also just like, let me just see how you are. Like,
I don't know.
My dog.
no.
You're
like,
really just salty because the dog meant she couldn't go home with you or anything. She's like, I'm leaving after this walk. I'm done.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
I'm just kidding.
It's like, yeah.
So nightclub is a no for me.
absolutely not.
Another one where you're not really talking.
No, that's getting.
That's
fuck
not the
energy.
point.
I would do.
How about sport events?
I would do a sporting event.
I would love to go to a sporting event.
I would do. A sporting
Okay, yeah, I think so too.
Waffle House. I think Waffle House to me, we don't have one here, but that's to me is
That's
like
like
after
Denny.
drinking.
Yeah,
Big
that's like
syrupy-
after the club.
That's like after going out.
Yeah.
That's not like a first.
We're not
date
going
thing.
to Waffle House. Just
Why was
because.
everyone so upset about this? Why was everyone up in arms about this?
Because
list?
some women were like, I would never do any of these things ever, and then some.
What's
people,
wrong with that? What's wrong? Like, why was everybody like, oh my God, these whores with their preferences? Like,
I think people were overreact, but the way that like I do think that there were women who were like, you need to come with a certain amount of like, it just had that like, what is the word? I don't even know how to describe this. Or like
they were entitled? Like they were gold diggers? Like what?
No,
what?
I don't even know. And it's not even I have a problem with it. It's just that I don't personally have a problem with these dates, I guess.
I feel like people
like somebody was saying like you need to spend a certain amount of money on me in a first date for me to know how much like you like think of me. And that sounds stupid to me. Like that was like the reasoning behind a lot of things that I heard was like, I don't know how much you like me unless you spend like money on me or else like that's not like.
Those people are monsters.
Yeah, I personally
Do you think
don't.
they're monsters?
Yes.
Not monsters.
If I heard a woman say that, like, I mean, honestly, that would be it. Like, the first date, you think I should spend a bunch of money on you? I mean, and
I think you have to know your audience as you like know like how much money somebody can spend on you or not. So if you're asking for like fucking like,
But I don't like. Isn't there? This is just me.
Yeah.
Isn't there a piece that's like, yeah, be who you are out the gate? Like, why even fucking pretend that you want to be with somebody who makes a normal amount of money?
Okay.
But that's kind of like
I
there's
agree.
a part
That's
of me
real.
that's
I agree with
like,
that,
just if that's who the fuck you are, then just be
but
that
I don't
person.
think it's. But I think that a lot of women don't even think it's connected to that. It's just that they think that they're supposed to go on a really nice first date, and then after that, it's like whatever. I think it's just about like, you need to prove to me how much you want to go out with me by taking me on this type of nice first date. I don't.
What do you think about the fact that like goes along with like the notion of like he should pick you up?
Oh, I don't give a fuck about that. I'd rather drive. I don't really want to drive with somebody on a first. I want like an exit plan just in case. I want to drive myself. I don't really like being picked up. Like I like to drive.
I feel like people were personally upset about this because I think this is where a lot of men would take women on first dates. And I think men were triggered because I think a lot of men fall under one of these.
Boy.
And I feel like
a lot of these aren't bad dates.
And no, it's not. But
Yeah.
they were being judged.
Yes.
So they had this big
Yes.
reaction to
That's true.
feeling judged.
Yes, I agree.
They were like, no way, you know, like.
Did you see a bigger reaction from men, or did you see a bigger reaction from like women? You think?
I think it depends on like what you follow on social media. But I saw a lot of women like laughing at the list, and a lot of women were basically saying like, it's not about the money. Don't bring me to a chain. Like, a lot of women were saying like, you don't have to spend a lot of money. Just like put thought into the date.
And maybe that's a fake. Like maybe that's not real. Like maybe that's me. But that it is like you couldn't think of any like we could have gone to like a. I don't know.
That's like putting no creativity, no
Yeah,
energy
it's
into
like-
it. Like, yeah.
I don't know. And that also is like a class thing, I think, too. Like I want something like
Nice.
I think that's opposite.
I actually don't even want to get dressed up for a first date. I think that's weird. Like I want you to kind of like see me as is. Like I'd rather go on a nice date when I can actually enjoy you or enjoy the food. Like going on a nice first date, I don't feel comfortable. You don't feel comfortable. Like I don't want to go to sit at a white tablecloth or like wear heels. Like that's not me. I'm not comfortable. You're not comfortable. Like I'd rather go sit at a bar.
But you engage in bird talk.
I am a bird sometimes, but it's not like the guy I want to be with. It's not the person who I want to be necessarily. Do you know what I mean? Like, and also like those like.
I didn't say you were a bird. I said you engage in bird talk. Like I feel like you and I both are like in circles with people who would scoff at this list and would say it's disgusting and they would never go on a date and they would only date athletes.
Yes. Yes.
Both of us are like close to people like that.
Yes, I agree.
That's why I said you like engage in that kind of conversation.
I for sure engage, yeah.
And I think a lot of
I have bird tendencies.
There's a lot of I didn't say all that.
I think I do sometimes.
I think you want to.
I wish I did.
You wish you were a bird, but you're not.
I can't be.
You fuck with niggas who are birds. What's the name for that? The men who
they're just
want
birds.
you for your money.
It's worse. It's worse. Never mind. I can't even say it.
Sorry, defamation. We don't get sued.
Yeah, don't sue me, bro. Oops.
I don't care.
Tell your mom. Sorry.
Big petty. But all the women that I know that feel like that think that all men are trash. And that's like the basis of a lot of that belief is like, you're not going to bring anything to the table but money.
But your money.
So
But men
you
do
better
leave with their
have
pockets.
you better have money. Like that's a lot of the women. Like,
Yes.
you're gonna cheat on me, you're gonna mistreat me, you're gonna do all these things, and
So
I'm
give
gonna
me the
pretend
bag.
like I don't notice
So give
as
me the
long as
bag.
you give me money.
Yeah.
And it becomes like this exchange. So like the trade off for the fact that like I would go on for coffee on a first date is that like I want emotional intimacy and I want trust. Like you're not gonna be able to just buy me. You're gonna have to like be a quality human. So there's like, I don't know. There's just like different wants in relationships. So that's why for me it's like,
It's stupid to, my thing, like, when I saw this was like, if you don't want to go on these dates, that's fine. Like, don't date men who would go on these dates, I guess. But then also,
Chipotle's bad.
Chipotle's a terror. I actually have, I know somebody who would go on a Chipotle first date.
Wow.
Do you get? Can I ask you guys each a question here on this?
Yes.
Do you guys think that, because I've had some experience dating women who have that attitude that you just referred to,
Which
or
one?
just like sort of a fatalistic, like, well, people just cheat and they, like,
Yeah, like I'd rather cry in a Bentley than a whatever. A
yeah,
girl car
or
is.
just treating like all men like they're dogs and whatever. And in my experience with those relationships, it's
dumb.
like, it is so like do you think that women understand how much they are creating that vibe? Like, it makes it a shitty relationship. Like, it just
Yeah.
doesn't, like, I've been in that position where I'm trying to convince them, like, no, I'm being fucking earnest with you. Like, please don't treat me that way. But it's like their mindset is stuck, kind of. Do you feel like that's, like, I see that in your generation more, maybe? Like,
I think it's a childhood trauma thing for a lot of people, to be totally honest. Like a lot of the people, and this is just from knowing people, I'm thinking of a couple of people specifically that I grew up with that are still like that. And I think about their childhoods and I think about the fact that like their daddies weren't shit. Like honestly.
both women I'm talking, you're dead on.
Yeah, their dads weren't shit, and like either what their dad had to provide was money or he didn't have anything to provide, and their mom was really bitter that the dad didn't have money. So I think it's like stems from having maybe like a lack of trust in others. Period. And then like add men on top of it. And I think it's also like
imagine like
it's a self-esteem thing too, because if you have money and what I'm going for is money, once we're married, I get that regardless of how you feel about me. I don't have to earn that, really. If that makes sense. Like, it's like I get that no matter what.
Yeah.
And so I think there's some like security around feeling like I don't have to be liked or loved. Like if I'm with someone wealthy, I'm going to get a check.
And I'll just do whatever and they'll do whatever and we'll just coexist.
And we'll just coexist, and it'll be
It
just
never
like
works like that.
It'll just be like my parents' marriage, except I'm going to be happier because I'm not going to be broke like my mom.
And because I know what it is. I think people
Yeah.
convince themselves that they know what it is and they know what they're signing up for. And I don't think
Yeah.
anybody can sign up for the emotional toll of somebody not giving a fuck about you.
I don't think people think like, oh, I don't care if I would get cheated on. And I'm like, because the other thing, and this is what I like, so like the people who date like NBA players and all this stuff, right? Like if you're with like the 1 in a million guy who, sees you as close to an equal. I know he doesn't see you as an equal. I'm sorry, hon. But like close to an equal and really respects you and what you do and like isn't frugal with his money so that like you have help in the house. That's great. But there's like a lot of women who
It's not
basically you think you're getting all this money because they give you a couple grand a month and you're living in this nice house. But you're also working 24/7 because they don't help with
with the
childcare. They don't help with taking care of the home. They don't do any of those things.
You're actually doing more.
You're doing more. You're actually
doing-
not really getting paid as much for what, like if you were doing full-time caretaking, it's probably what you would be getting paid anyway.
And you're doing more because you're the mom.
Yeah. And so I just think it's a lot of like hopelessness in finding like a functional relationship and being like, well,
Yeah.
it better just be about this money then.
That's the perfect way to say it.
Yeah.
It's like hopelessness. It's like, okay, like if I can't find somebody who's emotionally stable or who's not going to be a cheater or whatever, I just might as well have a good standard of living.
But the downside to that is that anybody who's a quality human is running for the hills.
Yes.
So that's like the downside.
That's exactly
Because
what I'm
it's-
trying to
because
say.
it's a
It's a
turn-off.
self-fulfilling
Yeah.
prophecy.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
100%.
Completely.
100%.
So I've spent time trying to convince and fix those women in the past.
How did
Do
that
you
go?
believe that? Just how you think.
Yeah.
I think you have to grow out of it. I think it's
Okay.
just, I don't think you can force somebody. If people really think that's the way that like the world goes, that like it's transactional that way, that if I give you this, then you should give me this, right?
Yeah.
And I think I think you can't force a 22-year-old or a mid-20s-year-old to like not date a guy for the bag or something like that. But you might be able to, like, as you get older, I think it's not fun. Like, I want to be treated well. I want to be treated with respect. Like, I don't want to just be one of a bunch. Like, I want to...
I've never wanted to be one of a bunch.
Yeah.
I've never
Captain
wanted
Save a Ho rarely wins.
Yeah.
He's the only superhero who dies every time.
I think my question to you, Gabe, isn't about why it didn't work. It's why you were trying to save a hoe.
Because they're so hot. That's all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that simple. But however, there also is an emotional component where you're like, you do genuinely like the person. You do genuinely, and it's like, man, she has just been surrounded with shit people, right? And it's like, I know what my intentions are. Like, if I just demonstrate, that I'm not like. Yeah, I know.
You're preaching to the choir, actually.
Really? Okay.
Oh yeah, not with money, but I've definitely been with like
no, not with money. Like even for me, I'm not saying that.
Distrusting, emotionally unavailable people that I was like, I'm just gonna lean in hard as fuck, and at some point they're gonna realize I'm gonna be here no matter what.
Yes.
And all that shit's gonna go away, and I'm gonna get the glimpses of them that I see in these vulnerable moments, and it never happens. There's nothing worse than seeing a glimpse of the person that they could be in the relationship you could have.
Triggered.
Or having a month of it.
And it just dissipates.
It's glimmers. It's glimmers, and it's the thing. It's like breadcrumbs, and whether it's on purpose or not, it's the thing that like keeps you like, oh shit, it's
God.
there.
It's everything.
It's there.
Yes.
That's the worst. Like one of the worst things as a woman.
Go in.
In terms of like breaking up with men.
Go in,
and this
bitch.
this has been my pattern that I've seen with all of my friends. It's my pattern is like the men are dismissive of what we want until we're for real out the door.
Ooh.
And then
say it again. Lean in and say it again. Lean in and say it again.
They're dismissive of what we want until we're out the door. And then they're begging, groveling, doing everything possible to reel us back in.
Give another adjective just for fun. Do it again.
Desperately seeking our approval.
Woo!
Spiraling.
Sorry, I'm having a fun time over here.
And then when they don't win, they sue us. No, I'm just kidding. No, so
blow
then,
you up.
No, but it's like the thing that the glimmers that we were catching, now there's like a prolonged time of that. At first I was only getting that like once, I don't know, once a week or something, or every once in a while, or a good night or a good weekend. And now I'm seeing the version of you that I've wanted our entire relationship every time we talk. And it's sickening. And it only happens when you dump them. And then as soon as you take them back, you lose all of the respect you gained for not putting up with that shit. And all
you're
of
like,
the
what the
glimmers
fuck?
go away and they go back to exactly how they were.
What the fuck?
Look at this. So this I
Ziam
assume.
Amin Hussein.
Yeah.
Said, what was the first one?
Yeah,
I
can you
didn't
go back?
see.
This is in reference. No, this is the first one.
Oh,
so this is in
monsters.
reference to when I said they sound like they'd be monsters for like wanting money. Just where like if you don't take me to an expensive dinner, and I believe I apologize if it's not a her, but
I think women feel a lot of pressure to predict harm that comes from men.
right,
Yeah.
which is exactly what we just said. Really, is that it's
It is that. And
Yes.
I totally
Yeah.
agree.
That's
and
a
I
great
agree
way to
too.
say it. Yeah.
yeah.
it's a great way to say it. And I think like this feeling of like, oh,
Do it.
people like to do this thing where they go through bad relationships and they want to do patchwork instead of healing. So they go through a bad relationship and they pick a bunch of traits, random or not, and they're like, I don't want these traits again. So maybe you were in an abusive relationship with somebody and they were broke, their mom was mean to them, and they hated their job. Those are the three things you're never going to do again in the next relationship. That does not mean you're going to pick a solid human. It doesn't.
Right.
But women constantly are doing that. We're constantly looking for the random thing that we can find. What's the what's the thing we can screen out so we know you're a quality person? And unfortunately what it is like time, boundaries, and being vulnerable.
And
You'll learn
it's your work. You have to do your work on yourself. Like there's no amount of like, this is the person I can date, or this is the traits that I want, or this, like, you can't like manage it that much. And I think it's like a function of like the human brain that we think that we can control so much about who we date or the things that we like can interact or that we're even attracted to. And you can't control that much. I totally cut you off. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's it.
Yeah, it's such a control thing for me. I suffer from that totally. Also, like, thinking, well, I just won't date somebody who does X, Y, Z again. And it has nothing to do with character necessarily.
Can you guys interpret this last comment that they
Red
made?
flags about things like this to me sound like you're trying not to get played / guaranteed outcomes. That's exactly what we're talking about. I think what they're trying to articulate is like looking for ways that we can guarantee you're with a quality person. And one of the worst things about dating people is that like you can do all the vetting you want and you can go as slow as you want, but you don't know what that person's going to be like in life events until life events happen. Like, do not marry somebody if you've never had like a crisis while you've been dating them. If you have no idea how they're going to respond, you have no idea how they're going to act when your mom dies. I'm not even kidding.
You have no idea. You think that because somebody loves you and adores you, they're going to just show up in the way that you want them to, and it does not work like that.
It doesn't.
It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't. Like when for instance, the other thing I think about like the marriage piece and all of that, not that either of us are closer looking for that necessarily right now, but I think like when I talk to people about, like talking about guaranteed for outcomes, like, are you willing to be in a marriage where you would be unhappy for a prolonged period of time, like months to years?
To years.
And a lot of people are like, no.
You'd be surprised how much.
Right. And I'm
That's
like,
life.
That's
Yeah.
life.
That's life.
No, it's totally life. And so I think like that's where I say about like wait till your mom dies, not actually, but like people think like it's very easy to show up, not easy, but easier to show up for somebody after a hard day or a hard week or they have a bad weekend. What are they going to be like when you're depressed for 2 months? You can't get out of bed. How are they going to act? You'll be surprised how many men, I don't date women, so I don't know the answer to this, but how many men like at a certain point, their empathy cuts off and they begin to be frustrated that they're not getting attention.
And resentful. They're like, you need to pull it together.
Yes.
Because I need my emotional support back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that goes, so just like.
But I said I don't date women, so that's why I said it could go both ways.
Yeah.
Truly, like, one of the moments I knew that my relationship with, like, my last marriage was done is when I was talking to one of my best guy friends, and it was like, there was a point he goes, oh, it's 4:00. We better get off the phone so we can like clean up before our wives get home. But we had been commiserating because we both had a bunch of shit going on in our lives. It was like a really kind of tough call in a way.
Yeah.
And then I said, and I was just truly trying to joke at the moment, I said, hey, look on the bright side. When our wives get home, they're just going to cheer us up and make us feel better for the day. And we both just busted out laughing because it was just absurd. That was the most absurd thing you could have said, right? But it's the reality crashed in after we laughed. And it was like I hung up the phone with this hollow, sick feeling like, oh, that's fucked up. That's the truth of the, that's the truth of the matter. Like,
How come
preposterous.
I've noticed this from the outside. I feel like a lot of men become little boys in their marriage. And what I mean by that is it goes back to like, they feel like they're trying to please their mom. Like, what do you mean you're cleaning up? Like, there's a part
I turned my
that,
wife into my mom.
Yeah, because there's like cleaning up before mom gets home. Because like like when we're both adults, it's like I didn't get to it.
Yes,
and that's okay.
No, you're 100% right.
I did not want to do it today.
Me and my partner, we split up chores in the house, and I realized that the only way for me to not be his mother is to not say shit when the chores don't get done. Like all the quote chores get done when both of us have time for them to get done.
And there's the key. And is that you had that intelligence to fucking see that.
Like, and I'm over here and I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm actually not going to hound him about the dishwasher. I'm just not going to unload it and he'll get to it. Because you know what he said to me? He was like, we were arguing at one point and he was like, well, you don't want to be my mom. Stop being my mom. Stop beating me to things. Like, you saw that I didn't unload the dishwasher and you unloaded it that night. Or you like hounded me about it. And I thought about it and I was
Good for him.
If I don't want to do those things, the adult me, if I'm going to treat him as an equal, is he gets to do it on his own time. And I'll just leave the natural consequences, just like you do with any other adult. Well, it's not unloaded, so it's not getting unloaded. The sink's filling up. When you're ready for the sink to be cleared, the dishwasher will be unloaded.
Right.
But it's like in other relationships, I would have either asked him to unload it and argued about it. And I'll still do it. Like, let's say I'm like, hey, we're having people over. Can you unload the dishwasher? Sure. And he's like, sure. Yeah. But it's like, though, when it doesn't matter, that's when it becomes your mom.
That's the thing, too. Like, what you, even just that little, glimpse that you gave was like, it's not always like that. Like, people would hear you say, well, is it always like that? And you're like, no, like, we have, I can still ask him to do it. He can still ask me to do things. Yeah. Like, that's also part of the adult relationship, but it's also we don't have to do things on my time. I don't have to do things on your time. And if it's exactly natural consequences.
It's natural consequences. And I also had to realize, like, again, if you don't want to be someone's mom, the house doesn't have to be up to your standards.
Ooh.
It has to be up to, like, how we feel about it, right? So, like, if the kitchen's clean for a couple days, I just acclimated. I was like, whatever. Because, like, he doesn't like to cook. And I do like to cook, but I don't cook every day. And so it's just like, that's not like Gabe's like, this is amazing.
Oh, this is great.
No, but it's like the most like basic shit that you're like, these are the ways you create dynamics where you're not somebody's parent. We both use our own bathroom. We both dirty our bathroom and clean our bathroom how we want to.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like those kinds of things where you're just like, I think a lot of times women are like, I want it exactly how I want it right now.
And I think the anxiety sometimes comes from thinking that men want you or need you to do it a certain way. Like, if I don't clean or it's not clean, he won't like it, and they won't ask or require their male partners to do it. And maybe it's the opposite as well. I'm not saying it's just that one dynamic, but I think the anxiousness comes from thinking that you need to be a certain way in a relationship to keep that man. I need to clean in order to keep a man. I need to cook in order to keep him. And so the anxiousness is kind of, you're doing it to yourself, but I do think it's put upon by like the vibes that you get maybe from a partner, not necessarily yours, but like a partner or from society or whatever, that like, if I don't do these things, or if the house isn't clean, or if dinner isn't made, what does that say about us? What does that say about me as a partner? And none of it is true.
My mom is so clean. She's the cleanest person I know. And I literally have to tell myself, because I'm like, I've never was as clean as her, but I'm close. And so I've like deprogrammed, and I've literally had to tell myself, like, the house doesn't have to look like no one lives in it.
You were the one who was like...
People act like that though. Like, every single thing has to be hung accordingly. Everything has to be perfect. And I'm like, sometimes things just can be let go and it's not an issue. Like, it can just be dirty for a couple of days and it's fine.
It's
like,
not a showroom. I live here.
My mom cleans the inner corners of the closets.
Yeah, my mom would do
like,
that.
I mean, fucking dusts them and gets on her hands and knees with a washcloth and washes the floorboards.
My mom would do that.
Or the baseboards, yeah.
My mom would do that. She wouldn't do it all the time, but she would do that. Like,
oh, yeah.
My dad would do that. My mom would not.
My mom looks like that, yeah. Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But the thing that was happening is that no male partner I've ever been with cares about that level of clean.
Yeah.
And so then I was building resentment. Because I'm doing this task that I think is important and it needs to happen. And it's actually not that important. And they don't think it's important.
Yeah.
And I'm resentful that they don't. Like, there's a dynamic there because I'm like, I'm extending myself to create a home. And they're like, we already have a home. I'm like,
well, also,
no, it's a home because it's clean. What are you saying?
Also, like, how about stop doing that and come, like, spend time with me? And come, like, enjoy, like, you know, whatever we're doing. Like, you can do other things, right? Like, it's, I mean,
felt like that about
that's just a feeling that I used to think sometimes. And then the other thing I'll say about her that I'm curious what you guys think is, it used to be this thing where, like, a thing I noticed was the whole pick your battles thing went out the window. Like, everything was worth battling.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's I don't know why that happens or when that happens, but it got insane.
Another thing in my relationship that I didn't know, and I think men don't always communicate this, is that I didn't know my partner was picking his battles until he told me. I thought that he was completely satisfied.
I told her that too. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think oftentimes, not you specifically, but men don't tell you when they're picking their battles, and they're not telling, like, men aren't saying, like, yo, I've been holding on to this.
No, you're right.
And
I waited until it was at a
silence,
fucking nuclear fight. Like, to tell her.
Well, they think it's a badge of honor. Like, I'm just suffering in silence. It's what I do. I'm like, no.
Well, you know what it is? We don't listen. They don't feel heard. And they don't think we care because we don't care. And so, like, I had to reprogram that too. Like, my mom is literally the mom that says things to men like, I don't speak bitch. Like, that's the mom I grew up with, right?
I don't speak bitch.
I don't speak bitch. Stop. You're just fucking whining.
I can't even imagine how that would have gone over.
So, like, to me, like, that's...
She's fucking dope, by the way. I'm in love with her.
But that's, like, what I grew up with, right? And, like, all the women in my house were, like, single moms, and, like, I can fucking use a drill, and, like, I could fix something, and I, like, you know, even when I lived in that shitty... I lived in a shitty house in St. Paul that had cheap rent, and I, like, painted the rooms.
It was not a shitty house. It was the greatest house on fucking earth. Don't you dare talk about that house.
Okay. It was great because of me. I made it great. Talk about a shitty duplex making it great.
Yeah.
You're welcome. I left them with a better home than I got.
You did.
And so, like, But all the women in my house were crafty and like did all of those kind of caretaker things. And like as a result of that, we're kind of like, we don't need you for anything with men. And like we're pretty dismissive of how they felt and what were you bringing to the table and all these things. So like I've had to like deprogram that too and do the things I ask of other people, which is like I ask somebody to care about something because I care and I should do the same. Like there is times where like he'll be watching basketball and this is going to be like so pick me, but I grew up playing basketball and watching basketball and I'm like passively watching and he'll like say to me like, yo, I want to hang out. I want to talk shit about the game. I want to like do the thing. I want to have a drink with you. I don't want you to just be getting up and running around and doing like cleaning. And I'll have to like sit down and engage and it's always ends up being worth it.
Yeah.
But I think like a lot of us are just modeled women who are constantly busy and like caretaking and that's how they're showing love and that's what they're doing. Like nonstop. But
Yeah.
anyways, I want to talk about that YouTube comment. Gabe, can you pull it up? I think
Sure. So yeah, where did you send that?
I sent it in an email.
Okay, I got it then.
Yeah.
I'll grab it.
I think the one I just sent.
It'll be a second. Just stall real quick while I'm doing
Stall. No. So
Yeah.
somebody made a comment about how we were basically describing on one of the episodes about how people misuse therapeutic language. Like they use therapy words and they don't know what they're talking about. And they just kind of use it either to like help their claim or like tear somebody else down. And this person had an interesting critique on our conversation that I had wanted to pull up because they were basically sharing the ways in which like therapy is gatekept, which is like the whole purpose of our show, and saying like, so maybe don't be
They're like,
so,
yes, you're here for the right reasons.
maybe don't, they were kind of giving us feedback like of like, maybe don't be so hard on people who use therapeutic language because
Do you feel
like,
like we're hard on people who use therapeutic language?
I think we've only ever said anything negative about it.
Of course you guys are, because it's like the business you're in. So of course you're going to be that way.
I guess I
So
think we were shitty.
I'm
I
actually
kinda
not
thought
seeing the comment. So I see YouTube comment in the run sheet. I look at the other email. I don't see it there.
The one I just sent you.
Let's see. Oh, I got it. I got it right there.
Okay, cool.
Okay, got it. Sorry.
Cool. No, you're good.
But speaking on this, by the way, how about using the word narcissist? Doesn't that feel like the most in vogue thing to say right now to people?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like even when I say it about a certain person.
But okay, to you personally, does it feel invalidating when other people use it because you feel like you're using it for real, for real?
No, because I'm not prone to think that way, I guess. You know, like I just don't think of myself that way, I don't think. But I think it's just overused. I just think people fucking abuse the hell out of it right now. They love to say that.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a narcissist. So here we go. I'll make it bigger for you.
Great, I'll read it. Layla the Cuttlefish said, would love to hear y'all talk more about the idea of anyone using therapeutic language. I see and hear the ways it can be weaponized, but I also see how the sharing of these ideas can be helpful for folks that now have a word for something they had experienced but could never name. It's super messy, and I definitely wish more people would have the context of therapy, but therapy isn't accessible to everyone, so it's a funny middle ground where people can access therapeutic language and have ideas fucking everywhere. Thanks for starting a conversation about it.
I feel like that the comment actually answered itself a little bit, not literally, but it was like, yes, therapy should be more accessible. The language should be more accessible, but also people should be in therapy to figure out what that means. Not like.
But what do you think about like going online, reading an article, and using that word from now on? Does that feel
I think
okay to you?
It's okay.
Not in a dismissive way, but do you feel like you could be, like, for instance, do you feel like you could never have gone to therapy in your life and be able to see and name gaslighting? Because I feel like yes.
Yeah. Because I feel like gaslighting is actually an easier thing to understand than narcissism.
Say more.
Gaslighting is the experience of having like your reality questioned and feeling kind of crazy about what you know is true to be happening for you.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's almost a universal experience. Like we've all had experience with gaslighting with different people in our lives, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think we've all had experiences with narcissists or narcissism, and we all have aspects, oh my gosh, of things within ourselves that are narcissistic. Everybody has narcissistic traits, right? That's different than being a full-blown narcissist with a personality disorder, right? And so I think that people can do narcissistic things because it's human, right? It's different than having a personality disorder. And so I think those two things, like your boyfriend cheating on you, I think we've heard this example like That's what people use, right? Doesn't mean that he's a narcissist. But are narcissists cheaters? Sure. But are all cheaters narcissists? No.
Yeah. I think there's...
And it goes different ways. Like, it's...
So my experience of therapeutic language being weaponized is not specific to people who are not in therapy. There are a shit ton of people who are in therapy and are hearing therapeutic language
and still do it.
Yes. So it's really not about that. I feel like it's about when you are using therapeutic language, I think part of the assumption is that you're self-reflective and that you thought about how you play into this.
Yes.
And if you've done those things and you're holding yourself accountable and you're having empathy for other people, you're probably not causing harm. I think where it gets fucked up is people are like, okay, I know the right way to do this because I was in therapy or I know about this therapy thing. And so you are empirically wrong.
And that's not true.
And I think that happens a lot. Like, I think people are a lot, like, very much using buzzwords and then
to describe their experiences or describe other people in their lives.
More importantly, to describe other people than their experiences. I think, like, how you want to describe yourself is completely up to you, even if it's not accurate. I think where you start causing harm is you start describing other people with therapeutic language in a way that seems like you're diagnosing them or
labeling them.
Or you know more about them than they know about themselves. So it's not really about, I think, the trick when people use therapeutic language is you assume that they've had some level of time where they've sat in their body and had self-reflection. And when that doesn't come with the language, you feel like you got slapped in the face.
Well, it feels empty.
I feel slapped.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like,
yeah.
Because it feels, and this is my bad, but you're cueing to me that you're safer than you are. Like, I think you're safer than you are when you're using certain words. I think you've really thought about yourself, not narcissism and gaslighting, ones that aren't buzzwords. If you drop a non-buzzword on me, I'm like, oh.
You're right.
You might know something.
No, I feel I'm like, oh shit. Like, look, where'd you find that out?
Yeah.
Like, you must have done some self-work, you must have done some reading, or you must be interested in this thing.
Yeah.
And that's not like a correlation necessarily.
No. But I thought it was a super great comment. So I was like,
a great comment.
What are the most overused therapeutic terms?
Should we trade them back?
Or like concepts?
You go first.
Well, it was narcissist, gaslight. I kind of want to look it up. Can you think of more? Boundaries.
Boundaries is a good one. Therapy
Boundaries
might be a good one.
definitely, like,
people call
now.
everything. I think therapy. Triggered is a good one.
Trauma.
I think therapy is overused, actually. I think people think everything that feels good is therapy.
Abuse, psychopath.
I think boundaries,
Sociopath.
especially, like as you say, boundaries, everyone just loves to, like, one of the things that it took me forever to catch on to, where I went like, whoa, wait. Do you notice that we talk about your boundaries constantly, but we've never once discussed mine?
Yeah.
Gabe,
you know what I mean?
Gabe, what do you think, if you could define boundaries, how would you define boundaries?
I would define it as the line in which I have to make a certain choice, I guess. Right? Like, I mean, if you cross this line, I need to, either leave or stay or whatever that may be.
You have to make a choice for yourself.
I have to make a choice for myself, yeah.
You know what boundaries are.
Oh, did you expect me to get that wrong?
Actually, no. I was asking kind of facetiously, but I think I hear a lot of people get boundaries wrong.
I am new to boundaries.
Like, people think that boundaries are like implementing what you want. Like, if you don't follow this rule, you're not following my boundary.
Well, that's true.
Well, it's... If you don't follow this rule, it's what I'm going to do. It's not if you don't follow this rule, like, you need to do this.
I get what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
Like, that is what I'd say Miss X, like, came at this as, which is just, here's a boundary that it was all dictated by her. It just had nothing to do with me almost.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or whatever.
I don't know. When I think about the way boundaries are misused, I feel like boundaries are threats. Some people use boundaries as threats, like they're threats.
Yes.
No doubt.
They're and they're not
or like
supposed
an ultimatum.
To be threats.
Yes.
And they might be popped on you too. Like, brought up all of a sudden, like, oh, that was a boundary. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But I often see people say, like, if you don't do this for me, I'm gonna cut relationship with you, or I'm gonna blow up this part of your life.
That's
I'm
a
like,
threat.
That's a threat.
Yeah.
That's not a boundary.
Right.
That's a threat
Give us an example of a boundary, like a clear boundary.
versus a threat.
Yeah.
How about this? What
I
is
won't answer the phone after 8 p.m. A threat would be if you call me after 8 p.m., I'm never speaking to you again. That's a threat versus a boundary.
Yes, that's perfect.
Like, those are the two, right? So, like...
Right, the boundary is I don't pick up the phone after 8 p.m.
And then this is the thing that's the mindfuck, is most of us, including me, instead of respecting our own boundary, which would mean not to pick up at 8 p.m., it would be to pick up and then yell at them. You just disrespected your own boundary by picking up.
I do that shit
The
too.
answer is don't pick up. You're demonstrating more of your boundaries with your actions than you are with your words.
You know this is my fucking boundary.
Yeah, no, literally. And it's like, now you're toxic. You don't pick up, and then you write them back. You wait to respond.
Until they're done calling.
No. You wait to respond until it would be the appropriate time you would normally respond, so the next day. And if they are angry you didn't respond till the next day, then you address it.
Yes.
But don't, like, flip out because someone didn't call. Like, you can set a boundary with... You know what I'm saying, though?
Well, the thing that you're saying, too, is that it's your job to hold your boundaries.
It's your job not to answer after 8 p.m.
Yes, it's not somebody else's job. It's nice if they respect your
If you
boundaries.
answer at 9 p.m. and yell at them, you didn't respect your boundary.
No. And that's why they don't respect yours either.
Exactly.
Me to me.
Also, people don't just search for good attention. They like all attention. So you're shooting yourself in the foot by being angry. It's still attention. Don't give them any attention. Follow the boundary. That's like the thing people really struggle with. Is like...
Is follow through.
You can barely do the boundary yourself, clearly. If you need them to not call you after 8 p.m. for you to not answer, then this isn't a heavy boundary for you. You're not good at this boundary. You should re-examine why you're not good at this boundary or whether it's important.
Right.
Do people overset boundaries? Like create too many? Do you feel like that's common?
I feel like
that's
people
something
say-
I feel.
I think a lot of people people set expectations and then don't follow through. I think like that person at the beginning who was saying, like, you're trying to get a guaranteed outcome. I think a lot of women do that. I'm going to say these 15 rules and it's going to get me a guaranteed outcome. And then they don't follow the rules themselves and now you look like a clown.
Yes.
So
People do that. That's just
Yeah.
humanity.
Oh.
But now you look like a clown because you said you weren't going to do all these things and you did half of them. You just yelled at me while you did them, but you still did them. So
I know you're more worked up than I am.
yeah. Anyways, on to the next. We really wanted to talk about Israel, Palestine.
Yes. Let's do it.
But I just want to preface this by saying we may get canceled. I don't know. But we wanted to take like a very like our lens on it. So we're going to talk more about
A therapeutic.
therapeutic, like two topics kind of that circle us more than we talk about like specifically how we feel about the overall kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think we had talked about this previously. Like, it's everybody knows what's kind of going on. It's in the news everywhere, and so it feels maybe a little bit like irresponsible to just not talk about it at all. It's kind of why we decided to just bring up a topic about it.
I feel like too like you should share your bias.
Yes,
because you have a lot of bias.
Yeah, I'm Jewish.
And that's not where your bias comes from.
Oh no, and I'm super anti-Zionist.
Yes.
And very like pro-Palestine and pro-liberation for Palestine. And I also want like safety for Jewish people, and I want Jewish people to feel also liberated and safe and things like that. But right now, it's not. There's not like a. It's a no-brainer for me.
I also just
It's
want
not equity right now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I also just want to speak to what you've shared a lot with me, which is that like your experience as a Jewish person is that you don't get clocked or treated like a Jewish person.
Yeah.
And so not that that's something you're salty about. I don't know if it is or isn't, but
No.
I think like
It's just a difference.
it changes your experience because you're like a closeted Jewish person.
Yes.
Unintentionally, like your family's very
Secret
Jewish
Jew-
and
yeah.
practice and all
Yeah.
of these things, but because you don't have a white body, everyone's
black, yeah.
surprised.
Right. No, I appreciate it. We talk about this a lot, like Jave and I, and she's somebody who I feel like safe talking about like all the different nuances and stuff about it with. And I think as a Black person and as somebody who's Jewish, you know, I've done, my whole Jewish family is white. It's my brother and I are the only people of color in like our Jewish side of the family.
And you went on a birthright?
I went on a birthright trip, and when I was early in college and got chewed out by a lot of my Muslim and Arab friends, and rightfully so, I deserved it. And it changed a lot for me. You know, I kind of was like, oh, I'm going on this free trip. And
who wouldn't feel like that at fucking 22?
right.
How old are you?
And they weren't like, you know, they were empathetic and they got it, but they schooled me, they educated me. And I went on this trip and they were right. You know, it was a ton of propaganda. It was a ton of racism that I encountered, right? There was maybe 1 or 2 people on the trip who were either queer or just kind of like cooler, actually. Not even like
were you the only brown person?
The only brown person on the whole trip.
What is a birth? I mean, I know what a birthright trip is, but I also don't. You know, like, how does it work? Yeah.
So a birthright trip is essentially a trip that it's a free trip for anybody from like the Israeli, it's from the Jewish diaspora, I guess.
Diaspora, yeah.
They really want, specifically, it's really for Jewish people. They want them to like repatriate to Israel and to become like, they have IDF soldiers on the trip with you to kind of educate you. If you want to move and be in Israel, it is mandatory that you serve in the IDF. And so they also,
2 years for women, 3 years for men.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I'm a Jew lover, and I didn't know that was actually, so like the state pays for it?
No. Oh, yes.
The birthright trip?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
They pay for your ticket. They pay for everything.
Because they're going to do propaganda.
Yeah. And so, they take you to the Gaza Strip and you overlook it and you see all these things. And the whole
Did you get to go in there?
Yeah. You don't get to go in the Gaza Strip, but you're there.
Do you get to walk on the streets that only Jews get to walk on in the Gaza Strip, or do you only get to look at it?
Nobody gets to go in Gaza.
Okay.
You never get to go to Gaza unless you're like working with a Palestinian Jewish like coalition. You can go to Gaza.
Okay.
My cousin was actually going to do that. And, you can't go to the Muslim quarter when you're on a birthright trip. You can't go to the, kind of the cultural interesting shit. You can't go be around other brown people. And when you go to Israel, it feels segregated, right? People don't want to talk about that, but it feels, Black people and brown people and Black Jews and Ethiopian Jews are a large population. They don't have the same rights. Like, it's literally in the Constitution. Right? People they want a certain type of Jewish people in Israel. And so the idea that it's for all Jewish people, is a fallacy. The idea that it creates safety for Jewish people is a fallacy. So I'm getting kind of off topic. But long story short, I think, I feel Black before I feel Jewish. That's the thing that people notice about me most. That's the thing that I identify with most. And I think that white Jewish folks, including some folks in my family, struggle with that piece. I think that I or others are choosing other parts of our identity over being Jewish because, frankly, for a lot of white Jewish people, that's kind of the only source of marginalization they have in their lives. It's the thing that connects them to being a marginalized population. And I think that matters to them. And there's not a lot of kind of context surrounding that.
I can't speak, obviously I'm not Jewish, so I can't speak to that, but I can speak to the experience of having white women in my family and having them be personally offended that I identify more with being Black than being a woman. So I can only imagine that is people feel similar to you of well, how could you identify more with being Black than Jewish? People feel very offended that I don't.
Yes.
What a great comment.
Yeah, but people feel, what is that? I was literally going to see if you guys uploaded a video. I really need to hear this. Going through a 5-year relationship, I did not set healthy boundaries.
Thanks for joining.
Also, just so you know, neither did we.
Full transparent. I'm still figuring this shit out.
We're still figuring it out.
I am also out of a 5-year relationship breakup, and it's fucking tough. You're doing the hard work. Hopefully.
And we should ask her which boundaries she didn't set or whatever, just if she wants to share that for later.
Yeah,
obviously,
we will totally circle back if you want to.
Yeah, please share if you feel comfortable.
Yes, but I felt that before, and I felt the resentment I felt towards family members about how could you not understand that the Black experience feels bigger to me?
Tell me why, because I want to connect it. Tell me why it feels so invalid. What is the piece as a Black person? Can you explain why that feels so invalidating to have people second guess where your allegiance should be?
Because I think it's a lack of respect and understanding for how much being Black colors and impacts my experience. It colors and impacts the experience much more than it does being a woman. It just does. And it feels like people don't believe me.
They think that you're trying to do too much, or that you're faking it, or that you're putting, I'm no.
Well, so I think where a lot of Black women get caught up, and I'm included, is that Black people in a lot of categories are not as liberal as white people. And so I think it feels confusing because it's you're aligning with this group that doesn't align with you on a lot of different values. I don't get it. Like, they're not as feminist as they should be. How could you overlook that? And I want to look at them and say, but you're not as, like, supportive to Black people as you should be. And I overlook it all the time.
You're not a Black feminist. You're a white feminist.
And so...
and our struggles are different.
And they're different, and they look different, and they feel different, and, like...
the things we're worried about are different.
I also think, and this is very privileged, and this is me being very honest, I think that that women who are beautiful have a different experience than other women.
Yeah.
And so I feel like being a woman is very hard, but I also feel like I have the good side of being a woman.
Pretty privileged.
It's the most true shit you've ever seen in your life. Yeah, you guys don't even live on the same planet.
Yeah,
we don't.
Your proximity to whiteness, your proximity to
No, not even on the same planet. Me, personally, as a beautiful woman... I'm not saying that doesn't mean I don't have all this negative things going on me, but I'm not an ugly woman.
Yeah.
And so I have a different experience as a woman than a lot of people have. And it's just true. It's just true.
It's just true.
It doesn't mean it's not hard being a woman. It doesn't mean that there's not a lot of dynamics going on. But
when you look like a person who people want to see, it makes life easier.
It's everything.
Yeah. I completely agree.
I will
There's
straighten
things
my
I can
fucking
do-
day up. Like, if a beautiful woman comes around. Like, for real. Like,
No,
you
but
straighten your shit up.
there's things that, and there's things that I can present as a different way as a woman and get a different response. It does not work like that when you're Black.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. There's just a lot of things that are really grounded and solid. And as a Black woman, I have Black men in my life that are my family that I love deeply. And they don't benefit from being seen as less threatening. And I think being a Black woman gives you not less threatening emotionally, but physically. Like, we're not getting shot down in the same way by the police.
Yeah.
It's just like a different
different
experience,
safety
right?
in
And
different
so,
ways.
like, as a woman, it's so interesting because, like, in the, like, oppression Olympics, I'm, quote, more oppressed than Black men. And at the same time, I feel a real responsibility to, like, use any privilege I have to
protect
champion them.
Yeah.
Like, any.
Yep.
And so it also is hard for me, like, when I think about, you know, like, my little brother and stuff like that, I've softened a lot on how I feel about men. Like, I've softened a lot on the negativity and the, like, all men suck and all of that. And so, like, there's just a lot of different dynamics at play that make me feel more connected to my Blackness than to being a woman. I don't feel...
Yes.
So it's just a lot. Just a lot going on.
Yep. Intersectionality.
But anyways...
If the apocalypse came, I think you'd be associating with women more.
No.
You don't think so?
No,
When the shit hits the fan.
I'm wherever the Black women are. And wherever the Black women are, that's where I am.
Yeah, women.
No. I'm not where all women are.
Hey,
No, 'cause
hey,
I'm
you
not-
know my stance on certain women. I'm just saying.
No,
like,
so for me, the reason why the apocalypse wouldn't matter is because, like, I don't imagine... I think what you're meant is, like, a civil war. Or, like, a draft. Like a draft.
No, I mean, like, back to nature. Like, when it gets
Side note,
really brutal.
If there was really a zombie apocalypse, we're actually in the safest place because zombies are made out of tissue and, like, nothing else and muscle, and they're going to literally freeze to death in the winter, and then we'll just kill them.
Oh, fuck. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sleep well.
Oh, in terms of protection and hunting, nah, I'll go out there with the men.
I believe you there.
I go out there with the men. Because for me...
Something turned off.
The TV. But for me, I'm like, I want to work and I want to have money because I want to be respected. Like, that means more to me to be seen as an equal than it does to have a life where I should be treated properly as a woman. Like, I very much value feeling like I'm respected as an equal.
It's for you.
So I'd be out there at the apocalypse. Light it up, bitch.
I need a gun.
Light it up.
Baby, I'm not walking around the apocalypse
Yeah.
without a gun, without a firearm. Hell nah. I don't know if I want to hunt, but I'm definitely shooting some shit.
I'm shooting some shit. So
You can always use your body to.
we had two different things that we
use my
wanted to talk
body.
about. And I actually want to talk about the second one first.
Turning away.
So there's a lot of conversation online about, like, disengaging from what's going on in Israel and Palestine because it's better for your mental health. No,
Not yet.
not yet. Yeah, it's better for your mental health. It's like, better for you to be
protect your peace.
Protect your peace. Don't get overwhelmed by watching what's going on. Like, don't watch all these videos. They're harmful for you. Like, and only engage when it feels good to you. And I really wanted to talk about that because I think from a therapeutic perspective, it's so interesting.
It's really,
because what I would tell somebody as a therapist is not what I would tell my friend to do. They're totally different things.
Yes.
Like, I would tell my friend, you need to be checked in and watching this.
Yes.
And that the least you could do is witness this
and not turn away.
firsthand, so that when media tells you that it wasn't real, you can be a witness and say it was real. Like, that's the least you can do.
You need to be on the right side of history.
As a therapist, I literally tell my clients to get off of social media. That is what I'm telling them to do. So it's so interesting because, like,
I literally have clients who are Black or who are across the spectrum, literally distraught. And they're literally, you know, I'm sure you have the same experience. People are like, what do I do with this? I don't know what to do. Kind of like, I don't know how this
Nobody's
is
brought up
me.
Israel, Palestine to me.
I guess you're working with kids too, so that's
Well, I'm working with people who are in crisis.
Yes.
So they don't care.
They have other fish to fry right now. As Rachel Fax, as a Black woman, society's made Blacks in first before they see as a woman. We just saw a Black pregnant woman get killed by the police. Yeah,
I'm
completely.
like the least popular guy on this podcast.
How does it feel? No, I'm joking. I think, with my clients, I'm saying, you know, do what you need to do to take care of yourself. If you need to log off, do that. If you need to go talk to friends, do that. Like, dial into your own humanity. Like, take space if you need. Specifically for my brown and Black clients, I'm saying, you know, take space. And that is different than what I'm saying to my white clients, right?
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
So why are you telling your Black and brown clients to take space?
My Black and brown clients, I'm telling them if it feels good for them, they should take space, right? And that I can understand that feeling solidarity and that feeling community is also self-care. Being tuned in and being informed is also self-care, right? Knowing what's going on around you. I think the thing that I tell them is you don't have to be all the time. You don't have to be tuned in, and it can be overwhelming, right? Tune in for 3 hours a day. Right? Have limits for like your doom scrolling. Like, you don't need to be consistently like looking at reels of kids getting their faces blown off. Like,
and
that's
to you because it's not good for their mental health.
Right, exactly. But if I were talking to you, we might watch a documentary about like that shit, or we might like send each other stuff on Instagram, and like I'm not thinking about it necessarily.
But why aren't you telling your white clients that they can check out?
It's not that I'm telling them they can't check out. I'm using it as an opportunity.
Don't smack the table.
Oh, yeah. I'm using it as an opportunity to talk about, I mean, to be honest, most of my white clients I have are they're open to having this conversation, and they're kind of asking me, like, what can I do as a white person?
Do they know you're Jewish?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I talk about that. And I tell them, you know, there's a lot going, essentially, I say it better, but, you know, there's a lot going on in the world right now. You should definitely take care of yourself. And a way to show up as a white person right now is to do the hard thing, which would be to post things that aren't maybe what your family wants you to post or your friend group wants you to post, or donating money is a huge one. Like, giving funds is like what white people should be, anybody, but white people specifically should be doing. Having hard conversations with family and friends, those type of things. Like, yeah, I want them to take care of themselves. And if they're asking, I'm going to say, you know, this is what people are requiring right now. Like, tune into Palestinian voices, tune into what people are saying there.
So for you personally, you're not giving white people different feedback because they're white. It's because they're asking different questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Huh?
That's what she just said?
Yeah,
I took that totally differently.
I didn't say...
Because she had said, well, sorry, I'm probably reading between the lines because I know her. But basically what she was saying is that, like, her Black clients are asking her if it's okay to check out, and she's saying yes. And then her white clients are asking, what should I do as a white person?
Yes.
Okay.
So she said, like, she's giving different advice based on the questions being asked.
And it's still with care of, like, you know, if I have white who are really impacted by this, right, or who have loved ones that are really impacted by this. And so I have empathy for that too. It's not that I want them to like dive headfirst in and just ruin their fucking mental health. Like, no. But, you know, a lot of them are seeking Canopy out or me out to want to do like anti-racist work or to kind of like talk about the whiteness or talk about those things. And so I think that's what I'm telling them is kind of balance your own needs, and not everybody gets to balance their own needs. And so part of that is kind of maybe not sacrificing that, but engaging in a way than you normally
Say it with your chest, sacrificing.
Sacrifice it a little bit.
Have you expressed that to like your to your
Family?
temple, synagogue, whatever?
I don't.
Sorry.
I actually don't belong or go to
Okay.
temple or synagogue, but I do have a group of Jewish. I have recently actually been going to more Shabbat, like Friday night dinners with a couple Jewish friends who are like-minded, kind of anti-Zionist, more like Reform Jews who don't.
Can you
practice
speak to what a
religiously.
Zionist is?
It seems like that's
yeah.
a rising tide too of like Jews who are starting to express that for the
Yeah,
first time.
it's
which
actually
is
really
good, I
awesome.
think,
Actually,
yeah.
it's like it, and a lot of people feel similarly. It's like the first time in history, kind of.
Yeah.
There's been like a massive tide that like is kind of
Only took 10,000.
like rational.
only took 10,000, and literally it's the opposite. It's the first time it's been the opposite of the U.S. government, actually, which is really interesting. We'll see if it actually makes a difference. So far, it hasn't. So.
Agree to disagree. I think there's a lot of discourse online now about.
Yeah, I
people
mean, like
holding
with policy,
representatives. Oh.
with
Yeah.
like the president, like the White House does not give a fuck. They literally were like, we're not doing a ceasefire.
I think that from my personal perspective,
And I forgot to answer your question. Sorry.
we'll go back to it, but America is not in the space to tell Israel not to respond the way they're responding because of how we behaved after 9/11.
And we can't. We're like we're like this with
We
Israel.
don't have to be like this. We could be willing
could.
to engage with Arab countries in that area, but we don't want to.
We would never.
So, but I'm just
Yeah.
Also, like military wise,
Yeah.
like Israel is responding how we would be responding if that happened to us, like
Yes.
in every way possible. That is exactly.
And also Bibi's on tape saying that the Americans are going to react the way they're going to react, and even if they're mad, that they're
That's what
still tight
gonna
with
happen.
us because
Exactly.
we need them for strategy.
Exactly.
Over there.
But
And
we
they
don't.
know it.
We don't, but we think we do. I
Well,
don't
no,
think we do.
hold on.
Israel-
we do
Israel-
because we made enemies. We've made so
Yeah.
many enemies over the years that now we do.
We actually have to have Israel in the Middle East technically because of all the fucked up shit that
'Cause
America's done to
of
all
what
the other
we've done, right.
Yeah, which isn't really true, right? We could
But it's not
make
true
repair,
because we could fall in line, but we won't.
but we won't, right?
We could just fall in line.
And what people don't realize is there is oil in Palestine.
financial interest.
There's
right?
fucking oil all along the fucking coast. Like,
Yeah.
they're demolishing it, and then it's sick. What's happening? Sorry,
It's okay.
I get.
It's really funny because like I don't know. Like the way that like what is it called when you like politic based on your demographics? Like you politic based on what you are.
Your self-interest.
No, something politic.
Gabe, you got to know this term.
It's not
like,
demo. It's
don't,
not
or I can't
demograph.
think.
Identity.
I'm close.
Identity politics.
Identity politics. Okay.
We're identity politicking, and you're a Jew, so
Yeah.
know. But like,
Well,
it's,
she's not. She's going against it, right?
But what's crazy is
identity
it's not
politics.
against it.
No, identity politics is like based on your identity, you can do no wrong in that group.
That was
Oh,
which
okay,
is what
okay.
most
So because
Jews
she's
are doing.
Jewish
I
and
thought
she's
it's
being
falling in line with you. Okay,
anti-Israel,
right, gotcha.
anti-whatever, it's falling into the culture, right? Because
Right.
the criticism of people who are not that ethnicity, religion, whatever, who are talking about it is you don't know what you're talking about because you don't have lived experience, and
Oh,
she
yeah.
very well does. So she can lean into that as much as she wants to.
I have actually had a family member tell me that I should be ashamed as a Jewish woman, right? That I should they were like you should be ashamed and you should be doing more as a Jewish woman. And I said you don't get to tell me how to act as a Jewish woman. This is what I feel like my Judaism says I should be doing. And it's interesting because one of the pillars of being Jewish is actually self-critique. It's in the Torah. It talks about how Jewish people are supposed to critique religion, critique culture, critique God, critique themselves in the name of like self, like that's above anything else. And so it's interesting that doesn't get like.
Being a neurotic
Uplifted.
Jew is in the Torah?
No,
I was literally just thinking that. I
but
was
that's
like,
what they
being
say.
neurotic is in the Torah.
Yes.
Like you're supposed to hate yourself.
But that was the joke. That was the meme. It was like they were making fun of because that is literally why people make fun of Jewish people because they're fucking like neurotic and anxious and all that stuff because it's literally like a product of like sentiment in the Torah. That's how they tell you to be. They tell you to be constantly like self-critical.
back to the like.
Yeah.
How are we as humans
Yeah.
giving our clients different advice than we were giving our friends? Like, how come we can say to our clients, like, take care of yourself first, but we're telling everybody else in our community that they should put this first and they should sacrifice their own well-being to engage in this online? Because that is kind of what I'm telling people. Like, I don't really feel bad for you. Why? Like, how do we even hold that?
I don't know. I don't know. I actually don't know. I don't know why it's different. I haven't thought about it to be honest, that deeply. I think it's just like what I go to. Like in session, I go to, my role is to support my client. My role is to challenge my client maybe, but it's not my job to like impose upon them. But I am having like real conversations. I've had clients who, they know how I'm like, they know where I land on this stuff, actually, and I actually feel okay about that. I don't know why it's different. Maybe because we have personal relationships, and so I can ask more of my friends and I can ask of my clients.
I think it's different for me because I get to have self-interest in personal relationships. Like, I get to say, like, be informed because I want you to know. And I don't get to do that in the same way in therapeutic relationships.
There's not the same requirement.
Also, the work I'm doing is crisis work, so we're not talking about this at all. Everybody I work with could give a shit about this because their kid's trying to kill themselves.
Which makes sense. Aren't you doing it based on their strength? No, can you explain that more?
Like, so this whole time you've been saying this, I've been 100% under the assumption you guys both had the same, that the reason you expect that from a friend is because they are strong, they're in a better place mentally, maybe in their life, and that your clients are more likely to be in a
That's
less
really
stable.
interesting. No,
That's what I thought it was.
Maybe for
well, so all my friends are black and brown except 3 of them.
Oh, thanks.
Well, and unintentionally, not on purpose, except 3 of them. And one of them is married to an Israeli, and she's really struggling right now. Can't wait to see you. Love you, Sid. Seeing her on Saturday. And the one of them is like uber liberal, super left, and another one I went to high school with, and we're still friends. But most of my friends are black and brown, and so I think it changes the conversation because I think the conversation is around solidarity and holding witness, right? So it's like, well, this is your responsibility to show up for black and brown people. It's
It
your
feels necessary.
responsibility to figure out what's going out there. And I can call on, I think, other black and brown people to do that in a way that I don't ask other people to do it. I really don't.
Yes.
But the black and brown friends I have, we bond over identity. We bond over our experience in the world. And so, like,
it's community. What we're seeing happen in Palestine is literally what we've experienced as black people, what people who are indigenous have experienced. It's genocide. It's being wiped out. And so it feels personal too, I think. Like, if people...
Let's talk about why you think it's genocide. Why do you think it's genocide?
Because it's genocide.
I know, but I want to hear people talk. I want to hear her say it. Because people are going to
That's a great
nuts
question.
online.
Yeah. I think it's genocide because it is actively, if you look at the rhetoric...
Glad you're on the same page, Gabe.
No, thank God.
Even though I'd think something else. But anyway.
I don't think you would think something else at all. I think this has been...
It's surprising how people come out about it.
You know what? I'm going to have a very vulnerable share and say that for the first time in a long time, I know how white people feel. Because Jewish people are saying to me that I'm being anti-Semitic when I don't think I am.
Mm-hmm.
You're not.
And I'm sure black people or white people are being told they're racist when they don't think they are.
You're right.
And
it's exactly the same.
Yep. And for the first time in my life, I'm feeling under the microscope, like every single word I could say could have my character questioned and I could be canceled. And I know how that feels. And now I know how it feels. And I'm like, fuck that. Don't sum me up in this tweet. And it's like that similar kind of experience, if I'm being totally honest.
Can I do a quick share based on that?
Yeah.
So when you guys say
this, you think
about,
it's right?
do I? Yeah. No,
Okay.
I think you're 100%. I've agreed. Yes, and so I had a big fight over this because I view it the same way. Like, yes, what Hamas did. Why am I saying it so weird? Hamas did. Yeah, when they came, I'm Lebanese too. Like, as whatever, which they're based. Yeah. Is of course monstrous. I'm not saying like that attack was monstrous. I'm not saying anything else. I'm just saying the fact that
monstrous. Everyone who's acting like it's unprovoked is what's really killing me.
Right, exactly. And it's like, of course it is. Like, they're enslaved. They're living under apartheid fucking conditions. Like, what would you do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now I wouldn't go kill innocent people. But anyway, right? But it's like, of course.
But you know what's crazy about that?
But I don't dehumanize them for doing it. And that's where I feel differently. I'm not saying Hamas specifically, but I think there's this large faction of the country that feels like Palestinians put them in power, and so fuck Palestine too.
Yeah,
and I have
which also isn't true.
And I feel a lot of empathy for any Palestinian who was rooting for a group that was like, fuck Israel, kill Israel.
Right.
I have a lot of empathy for them. I'm not saying that like it's right, but I'm saying like I have a shit ton of empathy for anybody.
Because we know how it feels to have not be championed. You know what it feels like to have no group champion you. And all of a sudden when your people start championing you and speaking up and reacting against an oppressor, we know how that feels. And it doesn't mean it's right to go and kill innocent. I hate that I even have to fucking qualify it. And I actually read something that was like, why do black people and Black people specifically have to qualify when they're going to say something like hard. Like, why do we all have to say we know Hamas is wrong? Why do we all have to say that we like?
So
It's exactly the same for
Israel. So, genocide. Like the definition is the deliberate killing of a large number of people from a particular nation or ethnic group with the aim of destroying the nation or the group. And that's why a lot of people are like, well, what's happening in Israel is like self-defense, and that's not what it's about, and all of these things. And
There's a plan. They have rhetoric. They have. Sorry, I'm so go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you can go.
There is actually I actually looked this up earlier. I was like going down. I should send it to both of you. Actually, it's they use specific language and like propaganda.
Is it the book on how to talk about Israel?
Yes. Did you see that?
I did see it.
And
why don't you share what we're talking about?
It's a.
I can pull it up if you got, if you can direct me to it at all. Otherwise,
go ahead,
I've seen
talking.
clips. There's a documentary where it talks about the Israelis who fought the war in the late 40s.
Yeah.
Oh God, the
and,
Nakba.
And
Nakba?
they did, and they did interviews with those soldiers like recently. It is one of the most horrifying pieces of
There's actually a Instagram page called Soldier Something for Peace, and it's ex-IDF soldiers talking about the horrors of the things they had to do. And
Yes,
kind of
that's it.
Yes, yeah,
That's it.
Yeah.
I watched that too.
And and please, for everyone out there, I am a Jew lover, dyed in the wool, for real, But
The thing
it's
that
Also, Israel is not making Jewish people more safe. That's also the downside of all of this that's going on is the amount. And that's not right. It's totally not right. But they are giving such an excuse to the level of anti-Semitism going on.
This does not make Jewish people safer. It absolutely does not make Jewish people safer.
just go on Reddit and watch one video of like a shell-shocked Palestinian kid, like a 7-year-old boy who's shaking
I know.
because they're asking for their sister who died, and it's like, how the fuck can any adult look at that and not
Well,
just
Israel's
say that
literally
is
putting
fucked?
But Israel, there are people in Israel.
No, you're good.
They
I'm
are
cutting you off,
living.
sorry.
They are living normally. They're going to clubs. They're going to parties. They're and as they
They've
should.
only lost 300 people since this happened, by the way. They've only lost 300 soldiers
And I
since
think
the
that-
initial death toll. Since the initial death, like the 1,400 with the thing, they've only lost 300 people. Since that day happened, so they lost 1,400 people on October 7th. And then since that day happened, they lost like 340-something soldiers.
Yep.
And 10,000 Palestinians have died.
If not,
And I don't think that's even a worthwhile part of the conversation, though. It's just a matter of
I think it is because I think there's retaliation that happened. And what's the number? Like there's part of me that
and it's not even. It's not even. This isn't even. It isn't an even. This isn't like Israel. It's like the Israel Hamas war. There's no chance.
it's never been even, right?
It's never been even.
And that's why, to me, it's just, it doesn't matter. Like,
No.
of course it's
and
a slaughter.
I hear a lot of Jewish people talking about this like it's an isolated incident. Like they
really
attacked
sick.
us, and that is actually the
came
sick.
out of nowhere.
No, that's the sick part. You're completely right. I get so up in arms about this. I'm like, for almost 100 years, people have been displaced, and it's been uneven. And so when people, I hear white people saying, well, the United States has never bombed its own people. No, the United States has never bombed white people.
Oh, we've done a fuckload of awful shit.
Well, we bombed our own people in our own country, right? And so we think that
We've done worse
the
than
MOVE
that.
movement, the United States government dropped bombs on the MOVE movement in Detroit, I think that was like black protesters. They killed women and children. And
They've killed white people too, like Kent State and shit.
Right.
And then they
Right.
also, but what's worse, we did Gulf of Tonkin incident, which killed thousands and thousands of our young people on
Right.
a false flag attack.
fucking, what's it called?
We're
The
monsters.
Black Wall Street, whatever. They bombed.
We bombed Tulsa?
In Oklahoma.
Bombed.
We bombed Tulsa?
Bombed.
I didn't know we bombed
I didn't know we
Tulsa.
bombed it. I know they burnt.
Bombed.
But
Well, that
yeah,
was
whatever
I knew
the
it was
case.
bombing.
Yeah,
I
was
just didn't know
awful,
who
whatever
it was.
That was us.
Yeah.
But I'm saying all that, I don't know. All of the, I just think, I know, it's funny because we weren't going to go into our opinions.
I
but we have to
know.
go into our opinions, right? I think,
How do you not in this thing, you know?
It
Well,
feels necessary.
for me, I think this is the first time in my life I'm just like completely on the outside because I usually speak a lot about American politics and like, so I'm completely on the outside looking in, and I'm talking from this space where people are like, you don't know what you're talking about. And I have to remind myself the same thing I ask of white people when they talk about black issues, which is like, you don't have to be black to talk about black things. You just have to bring knowledge. You have to have insight and knowledge. You do not have to be black.
And be
you
curious.
just have to have insight, knowledge, and be curious. And so I'm trying to hold that in the same way, right? Like I'm reading about what's happening in Palestine. I'm reading about what's happening with Israelis. Like I'm trying to understand from an empathetic standpoint what's going on and be curious. And I think where my bias is coming in is as like, it reminds me a lot of Black and brown people in this country where we're like repeatedly oppressed in certain situations. I'm not just talking about now, I'm talking about also the history. And then we do something violent in reaction to it.
And it's like, look, they did
nice.
it. It's gaslighting.
And that's how I
gaslighting.
feel when I'm watching this is like somebody did something violent in retaliation to feeling like less than a human and feeling like, I mean, how many of their parents and all this shit are you going to kill, right? Like, and then they're not going to act like this.
Maddening.
And so, like, for me, I'm having that parallel experience.
You're an outsider, and I appreciate, like, I get why you're saying that, but I also think, like...
I am, though.
You are, like, you're an outsider for, like, a Jewish Palestine. Like, you're an American, right? We're all American, but, like, there's not, like, a...
But you're a Jew, so you're in there more than me. I think I really am an outsider. Like,
No, wait, but you are an outsider, but, like, with the American aspect, you have, like, you know... Right, you're an outsider on this specific conflict, but you're not an outsider on what is actually going on. You know how to speak on genocide, you do. And I'm not like this isn't a critique, but like the themes that are coming up, you know about that shit, and like you explain it well. And so,
well, that's what we had wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
One of the things that we wanted to talk about is the ways in which a lot of the minority populations in the world are seeing themselves reflected in Palestine. Sorry, a lot of the ways
Libya,
the minority populations are seeing themselves reflected in Palestine. Also, everybody in the region doesn't like Israel or feels like the U.S. is doing too much, this is an opportunity for them to shit on them. They're putting themselves in a very terrible position. It's not even a strategic position.
Right.
And then also, as a U.S. strategic position, I don't like that we're fighting 2 wars now.
Yep.
We're on 2 fronts now.
Yep.
I don't like that.
Well, we're on the edge of World War. Yeah, we're
stretched very thin. We're fighting a proxy war with Russia in Ukraine.
Yep.
And we're getting ready, and we're fighting
a proxy war too.
And it's Iran.
Yep.
And we're getting ready to enter into a proxy war with China because China's jumping in and saying they're not going either.
Yep.
So are we going to proxy war with our 3 biggest allies or our 3 biggest enemies in the world right now? Because we're not going to win.
As Libya and fucking India and Somalia are all descending into civil war. And we all have, like, a hand in all that stuff, too. Like, Israel and the fucking Armenians are going through a genocide right now. Like, there's that Israel and America have a direct hand in. Like, it's
What do you guys think about China and the Uyghurs? Like, there's a genocide there for that, too.
I do know for that. And I think
that's monstrous.
It's monstrous. And I feel very different about it as an American because I feel like we have no say or influence. And I mean that wholeheartedly.
Yes, I agree.
Really don't think we have any say or influence. I think China is our equal in a lot of ways. That there's nothing we can really do about it.
They're ahead of us.
No, they're not.
Yes,
we'd win that war for sure.
No, we don't.
We don't mean that
they're not trained. No, they're not.
Their
practiced.
army, their navy.
I know. No, we have 10 aircraft carriers.
Cyberspace.
We have 2.
Cyberspace, they're taking us out. Not even on some
our power grid is absolutely in jeopardy. But
our power grid's in jeopardy, but more importantly, the level of war we would have to go to defend the Uyghurs feels very different than cutting off aid from Israel.
Doubt. No.
So that's
and
why
I'm
I
not saying that.
I was picking up on the Uyghur shit a couple years ago, and it is really awful, and it actually plays into what I've been thinking this whole time. And I hate that I'm doing this because I criticize white people for doing this, but there is a piece of me where all the Jewish people bring up anti-Semitism that I'm like, Islamophobia is so heavy. Globally, it's heavy, and I'm not saying
Jewish people are saying that it is not this. It's not at the same level. And
okay. So the difference is that Islamophobia is culturally acceptable in the Western world because we look down on Islam because of all of the cultural things that wrap around with women being inferior. I can't even say that in Islam women are inferior because I don't know about Islam, but I know in the cultural spaces where Islam practices, there's an overlap where Islam is women are inferior. So like in the Western world, that's our way of like discounting Islam as being like, well, women aren't equals, whatever.
As like, we literally lose our rights here.
Well, that feels like equivocating, though. You know what I mean? Like that feels like you're kind of dismissing a real concern.
I'm not dismissing a real concern, but what I'm saying is that like I don't think that people have to reflect on their Islamophobia because I think there's a real better than.
Yes.
And I think that
and not listening to
anti-Semitism
Muslim
is
people.
being held in a different way because there's not a better than.
Yes.
Like there's not like a thing we can
I'm too
point
stupid
to.
for this
We see,
conversation.
It's not a thing we can point to
we see-
and say like, oh, I can never be Jewish because the way you guys treat women or the way you move in the world or the way you do this. And I
we see
think
Jewish people
can
as
do that
liberal.
with
We see
Islam.
we see Jewish people as being like liberated, as being Western, as
Yeah.
being this, and we see Muslim people like in the West as being from
Behind.
another, as being behind, as being from another
Visitors.
place, as being
Yeah.
visitors. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's actually, I mean,
No,
you're right.
they
There is
started tons of
like
shit,
some
yeah.
sort of like Venn diagram of it where it intersects, but it's not. We put a lot of our own assumptions on their culture. I think about hijabs, about kind of like being modest, about those things. Like that's our own cultural stuff.
And regardless of whether or not it's better or not, that's for every individual person
Yes.
to decide. But I think it's just more about the cultural context of like, you are not condemned as a morally lesser person if you look down at Islam.
Yes.
And I think you are condemned as a morally lesser person if you look down at Judaism. It's really not about the personal thing. It's
Yeah.
just about the cultural conversation. And so like, I agree that anti-Semitism is on the rise. And I'm curious about like, if
this isn't gonna
Islamophobia
help.
was on the
Yeah.
rise, will we care?
It is on the rise. Anti-Semitism is on the rise.
No,
but
it is. I'm agreeing.
National-
Yeah, no,
Nationalism
no,
is
I know,
on the rise.
I'm
I'm
saying,
agreeing.
no, I know
Yeah.
you are. No, I know you are. I'm
Yeah.
saying it. I'm agreeing with you and saying it is. And
Also, though, is anti-Semitism on the rise, or is it like every other thing, like when Trump came out, where now people who are already anti-Semitic feel free to say so?
I think it's both. But
You know what I mean? Like
I,
that.
I think it's both. But somebody made. I forget who it was. It's not the same. There isn't like a sense. Jewish people are not as safe as Christians, maybe
Yes.
in the United States.
No, they're
right?
not. There's real.
There's
yeah.
real anti-Semitism, but it is not the same as being Muslim and brown in the world, right? Being a white Jewish person and people clocking that you're Jewish, I think, is different than being a Muslim person and being brown at the same time. And maybe wearing a Star of David is different than maybe wearing something on your head or something like that. Like there's different connotations to it, and so I do think the violence is different.
I also believe, and just to like,
Yeah.
it's actually not devil's advocate. I think it's true. I
Yeah.
think that Jewish people assimilate more,
Yes.
and so because
Oh,
there's
completely.
more,
Well, they
assimil-
blend in. Yeah,
for
Yeah.
sure.
So because,
for sure.
but intentionally, like I
Yes.
worked. So when I did my first internship in grad school, we have 1 year internship and a 2nd year internship, and like for both my internships, I picked something that I probably would never do. And so for my first year, I worked with people who had severe and persistent mental illness, and it was like a case management role. And the guy that I was shadowing was Jewish, and he hid it from everybody. I only knew because he had like a Star of David necklace that he wore like way under his clothes that like came out one time, and I asked him about it. He told me, and we started having conversations about it in private. But he was like purposely passing. And we literally had clients who were anti-Semitic, and he was
Yeah.
not saying anything.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that being a white Jewish person from the outside looks like a very specific experience because you get to choose. It's kind of like a white passing person of color. You get to choose whenever you want to out yourself and share, because there is a difference.
You know
and
what-
people do treat y'all differently. And I know that
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you're a brown Jewish person, you're very critical of white passing, like white Jewish people.
No, nobody would never ever know that I'm Jewish. Except, you know what was crazy? Last week this happened to me. I went to a play with my mom, and we were walking out of the play, and another brown person, literally don't know this person from Adam, right?
Yeah.
Looked at me as I'm walking up the stairs and goes, "Are you Jewish?" I've never had, and I went, "Yeah."
Your mom is so obviously Jewish, though.
So I said, I was
To
like,
be fair.
No. So I think I said that to her. I was like, well, I mean, you were walking with me, so I think that kind of gives it away.
Yeah.
But I've never, and it was another brown person, which I
That
thought was
happens to
interesting.
me all the time, by the way.
I
People
believe
come up
that.
and use like
I believe that.
Yiddish or whatever, like, and they'll speak to me, and I'm like,
believe
Yeah,
no,
I believe
I'm
that.
not
You
Jewish.
give Jewish.
Yeah, I know.
So that was kind of one of the things that we wanted to talk about, was like this contradiction between like us as therapists telling people like choose your own mental health, but then us as citizens of the world saying engage.
And it can be both.
Fuck your mental health. Engage.
Engage anyway.
Yeah.
I actually tried to comment it, but it didn't come through. But
Yeah.
I'm dying to hear what you guys think, because you know how we were talking about therapy terms that get abused or whatever. To me, once you guys brought this up, I'm like, that's something that gets abused. That whole like protecting myself thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Mrs. X will say, I used to be, I'm a news guy, right? So I'm like, watching this, the newest outrage happens, the Uyghurs, whatever, and I'm sitting there glued to it like, I can't believe it, and I'm all upset. And I try to tell her about it, or try to, like, engage. And it was just this, like, I just can't even. I just can't even. Can't deal with it kind of thing all the time. And it used to be offensive to me just because it's like, you're a citizen of this fucking world. Like, how you don't get to just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You don't get to just check out necessarily.
That's how it feels, but
I think
depends though, right? Like, you should be able.
It really does depend.
We're all living our own.
Sometimes
like, if your
I
dad
check
was
out.
dying right now or whatever, like.
Sometimes I check out. Sometimes I'm like, I can't deal. I'm not doing this shit today. And other times I'm like, yo, I have the energy. I have the capacity. I'm going to post more. I'm going to say shit more. I'm going to have more conversations. Like,
I think for me, like, the difference between my clients and my friends is that, like, with my clients, I'm centering them. With my friends, I'm centering us. And, like, and so it's like with my friends, I'm like, I love her so much.
Yeah.
I think what's better for us.
You guys are so emotionally intelligent. It's nice to hear.
Thank you. I feel like it's like for us, like, I think you should be involved, and I want to be able to have this conversation, and I love you even if you can't do it.
yeah.
Like, that's how I really feel, you know? And so I think that's also because in friendships, there's not a power dynamic in the same way. I can give somebody a suggestion and them say no to it without them feeling judged in the same way. And I think if I told my client to do something and they said no to it, it would be a big deal. It would be a big deal. Not for me, but for them.
So this is a really hard question. I know we're trying to wrap up.
Yeah.
But I just want to throw this out really quick because I'm dying. Like, I can't let you go without hearing your answer.
Okay.
So we're in this situation talking about a very sensitive thing.
Wait, how far are we into the episode?
I don't even fucking know.
Okay.
Let me see. And 1 hour. Holy shit. Way too far. This is 2 episodes.
Okay.
You don't even fucking know.
Yo, Gabe, we
2
always
hours.
do this. The last one
always
was 2
do
hours.
this.
Why don't you guys stop being so fucking fascinating? It won't be a problem.
No, I love it because I can cut so many clips. This week,
Yeah.
I finally
We
had
can keep
energy
using
and I
this
cut
shit.
5 clips.
I ain't mad at it. Like, and
Yeah.
I'm the one who's technically,
Yeah.
like, that it should hurt.
We're
and I'm
using
happy
you.
with it. Yeah, so it's fine with me.
Ask your question.
So what I think, so here we are talking about a very sensitive thing that could have
Yeah.
repercussions for all of us.
It will.
Truly, right?
It will have repercussions. So not could
Don't say
it will.
that.
Not people calling my job.
You're not going to be fired. We didn't say anything
Yeah.
like that.
No,
But
my job would
definitely
never
people
fire
will
me.
unfollow us.
Yeah.
Sure.
And, like, people will distrust our judgment because we're not pro-Israel
And
fully.
comment shit. And
Absolutely.
Troll us and whatever.
If you go to our most recent post, there's about 7 or 8 comments from the post today about how we don't know what we're talking
Literally
about.
Sanjay when I was like, oh, that's funny.
That's a funny one. Anyways.
So then at the same time, we also know that we're not gigantic influencers. We're not
Yeah.
politicians. Like, we can't really affect it, right? Like,
Right.
what is our responsibility? Like, where does that stop and end? Like, if one of your clients said, I'm going to just say everything like how I really feel, and the Israelis are like, where it could have a detriment to them. How do you guys feel about, like, what would you advise them?
Wait, I don't
Like, if
understand.
somebody was like, I'm going to go
This makes me upset. Yep.
anti-Israel and I could lose my job.
Or anti-Hamas, whatever it is, right? But it could affect them, like, significantly, lose their job, whatever.
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
I mean,
Like, what is a person's responsibility
I think
when you know they don't, you know what I mean?
it depends on, like, there's so many depends in my mind about this. Like, what do I already think about their mental state? Like, what do I already think
I don't
about,
think
like,
that. So I don't think your responsibility is to share your opinion at your detriment, even if you're white.
Okay.
I mean that
wow.
wholeheartedly.
A rare pass for white people.
But what I will say is I have a lot of, no, it's not, I mean, it is rare, yeah. But what I will say is I have a lot of judgment towards people who don't share their opinions that are self-employed. And I know that's really hard.
Interesting.
I know that's really hard for people because
I love you so much.
sharing your opinion means that, like, maybe people who could hire you wouldn't.
Yeah, I think there's more detriment to, someone who's self-employed.
I think when I think about self-employed, I think about, like, influencers and people who are already making kind of fuck you money. So like when I see like a DJ, when I see like a DJ Khaled
Not
who
say
won't
shit.
say anything,
Or
I'm
Drake,
like,
not say anything.
you know, like those are like I passed it.
That shit makes you sick. Drake
Yeah,
won't
that's
say
right.
anything.
Drake and DJ
That's
Khaled's
fucking sick.
Palestinian and
Literally.
writ on it and won't
Oh
say
my
anything.
God.
Yeah.
Well,
So
record industry, holy shit.
so like those are the kinds I like. When you have fuck you money, I have a lot more judgment for you than
Yes.
when you don't have fuck you money.
Yes.
When you don't have fuck you money, you get to choose what your hill is that you want to die on.
Why'd you
and I
say
believe
that right away? I
wholeheartedly.
would have. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think like if you have fuck you money, you need to stand by your values, and if you don't, I think it's up to you what hill you want to die on.
Yeah.
And I don't think everybody can die on the same hill. I think if you're not personally invested in Israel, Palestine, and you don't want to lose sponsorship, I think that's fine. But I do think you need to find another hill to die on. Like, what's your social cause? We don't all have to stand up the same one.
Right.
But what's your social cause? Like, what's your, and it doesn't have to be mine, and I don't have to agree with it. But, like, what's your, if you have fuck you money, what's your contribution to the world? I think you owe one. Cheers.
Another great show, guys. Way to
Thank
go.
you.
Way to go.
Woo, woo.
Are we done?
Yeah, we're done.
Now I'm all jazzed up. I want to keep going. Fuck.
You know what's the problem is we start talking, then I like lose track of time. I have no idea how long.
I didn't think it felt like that long. Oh, ooh, my hair.